The red sun of Vithara cast long shadows across the broken city. Ancient towers reached toward the sky like broken fingers, their surfaces covered in strange writing that nobody could read anymore. Jin'ei wiped sweat from her face as she climbed. Over another pile of rubble, the air tasted like dust and old metal. "Careful with that scanner," called Taemin from behind her. The older man moved slowly between the ruins, his gray hair catching the alien sunlight. "These readings are off the charts. Something big is buried under all this stone." Jin'ei nodded and adjusted her equipment. She had been an archaeologist for 6 years now, but nothing had prepared her for Vithara. The planet held secrets that made her hands shake with excitement. Every piece of broken stone told a story of a civilization that had ruled the stars when humans were still learning to make fire. Heejin appeared from behind a collapsed wall, her tablet glowing with new translations. "I found more symbols," she said, her voice tight with concentration. "They look like numbers, mathematical formulas maybe, but the language is unlike anything in our databases." The 3 humans worked together in comfortable silence. They had been a team for 2 years, exploring dead worlds and forgotten ruins across the galaxy. Jin'ei led the digs, Taemin handled the technical equipment, and Heejin made sense of alien languages and cultures. They were good at their job, even if nobody else seemed to think so. A sharp whistle cut through the air. Commander Veltas appeared at the edge of their dig site, his insect-like body gleaming in the red light. His forearms gestured impatiently as he approached them. Behind him walked Scholar Quindar, a tall crystalline being whose body chimed softly with each step. "Humans," Velthas clicked, his translator making his voice sound cold and mechanical. "Your primitive methods are too slow. The Council grows impatient with your progress." Jin'ei felt her jaw tighten. "We've uncovered 3 major structures in the past week. The work takes time to do properly." "Time we do not have," Quindar added, his crystal body flashing with different colors as he spoke. "Other expeditions report finding Vetheran artifacts. We must locate the primary site before our competitors do." Taemin stepped forward, trying to keep peace as usual. "We appreciate the pressure from the Council, but rushing could damage important discoveries. These ruins have waited 3,000 years. They can wait a few more days." Velthas made a sound like grinding metal. "Humans lack the mental capacity to understand what we seek here. You are laborers, nothing more. Your species barely learned to travel between stars 2 centuries ago." Jinny's hands clenched into fists. She had heard this speech 100 times from a dozen different alien officials. Humans were young, crude, and stupid according to most of the galaxy. They were barely allowed to join archaeological expeditions, and only because they were willing to do the dangerous digging that other species considered beneath them. "If you know so much about what we're looking for," Jinny said carefully, "maybe you could share some details with the laborers." Quindar's body chimed with what might have been amusement. "The throne of dominion, the seat of power from which the Vetheran Empire ruled 47 star systems. Legend speaks of vast knowledge and technology hidden within its structure." "Legends," Taemin muttered under his breath. "Not legends," Veltas snapped. "Historical fact. The Vitharans possessed science beyond current understanding. Their sudden disappearance left technologies that could advance civilization by millennia." Jin'ei looked back at the ruins spreading in all directions. "And you think this throne is here somewhere?" "The orbital scans indicate a large metallic structure buried beneath the central pyramid," Quindar explained. "Your job is to uncover it quickly and safely." The aliens left them alone after that, returning to their climate-controlled command ship in orbit. Jin'ei kicked at a piece of broken stone and watched it skitter across the ground. "Arrogant insects," she growled. "They pay our wages," Taemin reminded her gently, "and they're not wrong about the time pressure. If the Korthak or the Nethys find a major Vetheran site first, Earth gets nothing." Heejin was already walking toward the central pyramid, her scanner beeping steadily. "The signals are strongest. Over here. Whatever's down there, it's big and it's intact." They spent the next 4 hours clearing debris from what looked like an entrance. The work was hot and exhausting, but Jin'ei felt the familiar thrill of discovery driving her forward. Each layer of rubble they removed revealed more of the strange Veteran architecture underneath. The entrance led to a steep ramp heading down into darkness. Emergency lights from their equipment cast weird shadows on the walls as they descended. The air grew cooler and somehow heavier, as if the weight of centuries pressed down on them. "Look at this," He-Jin whispered. The ramp opened into a vast chamber carved from solid black stone. But it was not empty. In the center sat a throne that took Jin'e's breath away. The throne of dominion rose nearly 3 meters high, carved from a single piece of obsidian that seemed to drink in their light. Strange symbols covered every surface, flowing like liquid, metal across the dark stone. Power conduits ran from the base into the floor, disappearing into the rock like veins in living flesh. "By all the stars," Taemin breathed. "It's real." Jin'e approached slowly, her heart pounding. The throne radiated a sense of ancient power that made her skin crawl and her pulse race at the same time. This was what empires were built on. This was what rules were written from. This was power beyond imagination. Her communicator crackled to life. Veltha's voice filled the chamber. "Humans, report your status immediately." Jin'e looked at the throne, then at her friends, then back at the throne. "We found it," she said into the device. "Excellent, remain where you are. Council teams will take over the investigation." The connection cut off. Jin'e stared at the communicator in disbelief. "Take over?" Taemin asked. "We just found the greatest archaeological discovery in human history and they want to take over?" He-Jin was already running her scanners over the throne's surface. "The symbols are changing," she said urgently. "They're responding to our presence somehow." Jin'e felt anger building in her chest like a fire. Humans did the dangerous work. Humans made the discovery and aliens got the credit. It happened every single time. "Sophisticated science," she said mockingly, pulling her geological hammer from her belt. "Ancient power beyond understanding." She walked up to the throne and raised the hammer. "Let me show you some human sophistication." "Jin'e, don't," Taemin warned. But Jin'e was tired of being treated like a primitive child. She was tired of alien condescension and human subservience. She was tired of being told she was too stupid to understand the universe. "I crown myself Empress of the Galaxy," she declared sarcastically, and brought her hammer down hard on the throne's armrest. The black stone rang like a bell. Light exploded from every symbol on the throne's surface. The chamber filled with blinding white radiance as power surged through conduits that had been dormant for 3,000 years. The ground shook beneath their feet. Above them, beyond the rock and ruins and atmosphere of Vithara, massive shapes began to materialize in the red sky. Dragons made of pure energy stretched across the heavens, each 1 kilometers long and glowing like captured stars. Their voice shook the planet when they spoke. "The air has awakened. The compact is renewed." Jin'e stood frozen beside the glowing throne, her hammer still in her hand, staring up through solid stone at shapes that should not exist. Her sarcastic gesture had triggered something vast and ancient and utterly beyond human comprehension. She had the terrible feeling that her life as a simple archaeologist was over. The energy dragons filled the sky above Vithara like living storms. Each creature stretched across kilometers of space, their bodies made of swirling light and crackling electricity. They moved through the atmosphere as if it was water, their massive forms casting shifting shadows across the ruined city below. Jin'e could not move. She stood beside the glowing throne with her hammer still raised, staring upward through solid rock as if she could see the impossible sight above. The throne pulsed with white light, each flash sending tremors through the ancient chamber. "What did you do?" Taemin whispered, his voice barely audible over the humming energy that filled the air. Before Jin'e could answer, their communicators exploded with panicked voices. Velthas was screaming orders in his own language while Quindar's crystal body chimed in rapid alarm patterns. Other voices joined the chaos, speaking dozens of alien languages as ships throughout the system reported the same impossible sight. "All vessels retreat to safe distance," came a broadcast on the emergency channel. "Unknown energy beings detected. Possible hostile contact. All personnel prepare for evacuation." Jin grabbed Jin A's arm. "We need to get out of here now." But, as they turned toward the entrance, the air in the chamber began to shimmer. Light gathered in the center of the room, forming a column of pure energy that slowly took shape. Within moments, a figure stood before them, translucent and glowing with inner fire. The being looked almost human, but stretched and perfected in impossible ways. It stood 3 meters tall with features that seemed carved from starlight itself. When it spoke, its voice resonated through their bones rather than their ears. "Do not fear, children of the bloodline," it said. "I am Elder Dragon Kithmarin, guardian of the throne eternal. The one called Jin A has fulfilled the ancient protocol." Jin A found her voice at last. "Protocol? I just hit a rock with a hammer. The sight." Dragon's form flickered with what might have been amusement. "You struck the seat of power with the genetic marker of the imperial line. The throne has waited 3 million years for this moment." 3 million? Taimin stepped forward, his scientific mind struggling with the implications. "The Vetheran Empire only disappeared 3,000 years ago." "The Vetheran Empire was humanity's first reach for the stars," Kithmarin explained. "Your species achieved spaceflight and built a domain spanning 47 systems before the Great Catastrophe forced you to retreat to your birth world." Hyojin shook her head rapidly. "That's impossible. Human civilization is only 10,000 years old. We have archaeological records going back to the beginning." The dragon gestured, and images filled the air around them. They saw vast ships crossing between stars, cities floating in space, worlds transformed into gardens of impossible beauty. And in every image, the builders looked unmistakably human. "Your ancestors sealed their own memories to protect you from ancient enemies," Kithmarin continued. "Earth was chosen as a refuge world where humanity could grow strong again in safety. The seals were designed to break only when your species naturally rediscovered space travel and found their way back to the throne worlds." Jin stared at the images floating around her. "You're saying humans built all this? That we ruled the galaxy? You built the greatest empire the galaxy has ever known. But power brings enemies. In the end, your ancestors chose sacrifice over domination. They gave up everything to protect the future." The chamber shook as explosions echoed from above. Through their communicators, they could hear Velthas shouting orders to his battle fleet. "Commander, the energy beings are not responding to our hails. They appear to be ignoring all attempts at communication." "Then we make them listen," came Velthas' reply. "All ships, prepare to fire warning shots." Kithmarin's form solidified slightly, and Jin felt a chill of fear run down her spine. "Your overseer lacks wisdom." The next sound they heard was Velthas screaming as every piece of electronic equipment in his fleet died simultaneously. The energy dragons had not moved or shown any sign of hostility. They had simply existed near the alien ships, and that was enough to disable them completely. "The Guardians protect the heirs of the throne," Kithmarin explained calmly. "No hostile force may threaten those who carry the bloodline." Taimin was recording everything on his scanner, his hands shaking with excitement. "This changes everything we know about human history, about galactic history. History is written by survivors," the dragon said. "Your ancestors survived by forgetting. Now you must survive by remembering." Hyojin looked up from her tablet where she had been frantically taking notes. "The symbols on the throne. They're not alien writing at all, are they? They are the first human language, evolved beyond your current understanding. Mathematics and meaning combined into pure communication." Jin finally lowered her hammer, setting it carefully on the floor. "Why me? Why did the throne respond?" "To me specifically. You carry the genetic markers of the imperial bloodline in sufficient concentration. There are others scattered across human space, but you are the first to find a throne world." The implications hit her like a physical blow. "There are more thrones?" 47 throne worlds in the original empire. Most are lost or destroyed, but some remain, waiting for the heirs to return. Above them, the sounds of chaos continued. More alien fleets were arriving in the system, drawn by reports of the energy dragons. Jin could hear at least 6 different species on the emergency channels, all demanding explanations that nobody could provide. "The galaxy knows something has changed," Kithmarin observed. "Word of the awakening will spread to every star system within days. Some will come seeking alliance. Others will come seeking conquest." "What do you mean?" Jin-A asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. The Vitharan Empire left behind technologies that could revolutionize civilization, or destroy it, weapons that could crack planets, ships that travel between galaxies, sciences that manipulate the fundamental forces of reality itself. Taemin went pale. And now every power in the galaxy will want to control those technologies. "They will want to control you," the dragon corrected. "The technologies respond only to the imperial bloodline. Without an heir, they remain sealed forever." Ginny felt the weight of an entire galaxy settling on her shoulders. "I'm just an archaeologist. I dig up old pottery and try to figure out what ancient people ate for dinner." "You are the first heir to awaken in 3 million years," Kithmarin replied. "Your choices will determine the fate of countless worlds." The dragon began to fade, becoming translucent again. "I must return to the Guardian fleet. Other forces are already moving toward Vithara. Some seek to protect you. Others seek to possess you. You have perhaps hours before the first hostile fleets arrive." "Wait," Ginny called out. "What am I supposed to do?" "What your ancestors would have done," came the reply as the dragon disappeared, completely. "Survive. Learn. Choose wisely who to trust." The throne's light dimmed to a soft glow, and the chamber fell silent except for the distant sound of alien voices arguing over the communication channels. Jin-A looked at her two friends and saw her own fear reflected in their faces. "Well," Taemin said quietly, "this is definitely going in the report." Hyejin was staring at the throne with wide eyes. "Jin-A, do you understand what this means? We're not the newcomers to galactic civilization. We're the ones who started it." Before Jin-A could answer, new voices joined the chatter on the emergency channels. These voices spoke Korean, and they carried the authority of Earth Fleet Command. "This is Captain Boram of the EDF Incheon. We are responding to reports of unusual activity in the Vithara system. All Earth citizens are to report to designated safe zones immediately." Jin-A looked at the glowing throne, then at the hammer on the floor, then at her friends who had followed her into the most important discovery in human history. "I think," she said slowly, "our simple little archaeological dig just became a lot more complicated." Above them, the energy dragons waited in the red sky like guardians of a secret that had been hidden for 3 million years. The secret was out now, and the galaxy would never be the same. Captain Boram stood on the bridge of the EDF Incheon, watching the impossible sight through the main view screen. Energy dragons the size of cities drifted through space around Vithara like living constellations. Her crew worked in tense silence, running every scan they could think of while trying to make sense of readings that defied explanation. "Captain, we're receiving multiple distress calls from alien vessels in the system," reported Lieutenant Commander Jae Sung from his tactical station. "At least 12 different species have ships here, and most of them seem to have lost primary power." Boram nodded grimly. She had served in Earth's defense forces for 15 years, rising through the ranks during humanity's careful expansion into galactic politics. Nothing in her experience had prepared her for this situation. "Any word from our archaeological team on the surface?" "Dr. Taemin's team is alive and responding," came the reply from Communications Officer Hana. "But Captain, you need to hear what they're reporting." The main screen shifted to show Jin-A's face, streaked with dust and wide with shock. Behind her, strange symbols glowed on ancient walls. "Captain Boram, this is Dr. Jin-A. I need to report a significant archaeological discovery." Boram almost smiled despite the tension. "Doctor, I can see energy beings the size of battlecruisers flying around your planet. I think we're past calling this an archaeological matter." "Ma'am, those beings claim to be guardians left by an ancient human empire. They say humans ruled the galaxy 3 million years ago before some catastrophe forced us to retreat to Earth." The bridge fell completely silent. Boram felt her stomach drop as the implications hit her. Doctor, are you certain about this information? I'm certain that something responded when I touched an ancient throne, and now there are dragons made of lightning treating me like I'm their long-lost ruler. Before Boram could respond, new contacts appeared on the tactical display. A massive fleet was dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the system, their ships dark and predatory-looking. Korthak hegemony vessels, Jae-sung reported, his voice tight with concern. 47 battle cruisers and support ships. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. The main screen shifted again to show a reptilian face with burning red eyes. War Commander Sethron spoke in heavily accented standard, his forked tongue flicking between words. Human vessels, withdraw from this system immediately. The Korthak hegemony claims all Vitharan artifacts by right of ancient conquest. Boram straightened in her command chair. Open a channel. This is Captain Boram of Earth Defense Forces. The archaeological expedition on Vithara operates under proper galactic permits. We will not withdraw. Sethron's eyes blazed brighter. Foolish. Mammals. Your species lacks the strength to claim ancient powers. Stand aside or be destroyed. The channel closed before Boram could reply. She turned to her science officer, Dr. Wu Jin, who had been studying the energy readings since they arrived. Doctor, what can you tell me about these dragon entities? Wu Jin looked up from his instruments, his face pale with excitement. Captain, the energy patterns are unlike anything in our databases. They seem to be some form of controlled plasma held together by magnetic fields we don't understand. But the most incredible thing is how they respond to our presence. What? Do you mean? Watch this. Wu Jin activated the ship's external communication array and spoke a simple greeting in Korean. Immediately, the nearest energy dragon turned toward their ship, its massive form shifting to face them directly. They understand us. Boram breathed. More than that. When I tested other languages, there was no response. When crew members from other Earthships tried the same thing, the dragons reacted to them as well. But when that Althari commander tried to communicate, they ignored him completely. The tactical display flashed red as the Korthak fleet began moving toward Vithara. At the same time, Boram noticed more ships arriving in the system. A sleek vessel with elegant curves that could only be Sivani, followed by the geometric shapes of Zareth exploration craft. It seems word is spreading quickly, Jae-sung observed. Too quickly, Boram muttered. She opened a channel to Jin'e on the surface. Doctor, I need you and your team aboard my ship immediately. This situation is about to become very complicated. Captain, there's something else you need to know, Jin'e replied. The Dragon Guardian told us there are other throne worlds scattered across the galaxy, places where more ancient human technology is hidden. If this news gets out, every major power will be racing to find them. Boram finished. Understood. We're sending shuttles to extract you now. As she gave the orders, Boram watched the energy dragons spreading across the system. They moved with purpose now, taking positions between the various fleets as if they were establishing a protective perimeter around Vithara. The elegant Sivani ship moved closer, and Boram received a priority communication request. The face that appeared on screen belonged to a tall humanoid with silver skin and large dark eyes. I am Princess Morden of the Sivani Confederacy, the being said in perfect standard. Captain Boram, I bring greetings from the Neutral Council and urgent information about your current situation. Princess, with respect, this is hardly the time for diplomatic pleasantries. Captain, my people have guarded refugees from the ancient Vitharan Empire for thousands of generations. We know things about your history that even your guardians may have forgotten. Your crew member who awakened the throne is not the only heir in the galaxy. Boram felt her pulse quicken. Other heirs? Scattered bloodlines across multiple species. The original empire was not purely human. There were alliances, intermarriage, adoption of promising individuals from allied races. The genetic keys needed to access the greatest Vitharan technologies are spread among many peoples. On the tactical display, the Korthak fleet was accelerating toward Vithara. Their weapons were powering up, and Boram could see that Sethron intended to blast his way through anything that stood between him and the planet. Princess, We may need to continue this conversation later. We have immediate threats to deal with. Indeed we do, Morden replied. Captain, I formally request permission to join forces with your fleet. The Sivani Confederacy offers our ships and knowledge in exchange for partnership in exploring humanity's heritage. Boram looked at her tactical officer, who nodded grimly. The Earth fleet consisted of only 6 ships against the Korthak force of nearly 50. Permission granted, Princess. Welcome to what I suspect is about to become the strangest battle in galactic history. As if summoned by her words, the energy dragons suddenly moved into formation. They positioned themselves directly in the path of the advancing Korthak fleet, their massive forms crackling with power that made every sensor on every ship scream warnings about radiation levels. All ships, this is War Commander Sethron, came the broadcast. The energy beings will stand aside or be destroyed. We claim the ancient weapons by right of superior strength. The dragons did not stand aside. What happened next would be remembered in military academies across the galaxy for centuries to come. The Korthak fleet opened fire with everything they had, sending streams of plasma and particle beams toward the energy beings. The weapons passed harmlessly through the dragons as if they were shooting at ghosts. Then the dragons responded. They did not fire weapons or launch missiles. Instead, they simply existed more intensely. The space around the Korthak fleet began to shimmer, and every electronic system on every Korthak ship died at once. Engines shut down, life support failed, weapons went offline. In less than 30 seconds, the most feared military force in the galaxy had been reduced to floating metal coffins drifting through space. By all the stars, Jae-sung whispered. They didn't even fight back. They just turned off their ships. Boram stared at the tactical display in awe and growing fear. If the dragons could do that to the Korthak, they could do it to anyone. The only thing protecting humanity was their apparent recognition of human genetic markers. Captain, Dr. Wujin reported, I'm detecting massive energy surges from dozens of locations across the galaxy. Whatever happened here is triggering responses from other sites. The other throne worlds, Boram realized. They're all activating. On the surface of Vithara, Jin'e and her team were being evacuated by Earth shuttles. But Boram knew that the young archaeologist's simple life was over forever. She had awakened something that would reshape the balance of power across the galaxy. The question now was whether humanity was ready for the responsibility that came with their rediscovered heritage. Jin'e stood in the observation deck of the EDF Incheon, watching the disabled Korthak fleet drift helplessly through space. Emergency shuttles from neutral worlds were already moving to rescue the crews, but the message was clear. The energy, dragons would protect her whether she wanted protection or not. The first vault signatures are coming through now, Dr. Wujin reported from his mobile workstation. We're detecting activation signals from 7 different star systems. All of them match the energy patterns we recorded from the throne. Captain, Boram joined them at the viewing port. 7 vaults awakening simultaneously. Every major power in the galaxy will have detected those signals by now. Princess Morden approached from across the deck, her silver skin gleaming under the ship's lights. She had transferred to the Incheon an hour ago with a small team of Sivani researchers and what she called heritage specialists. The closest vault is in the Kepler system, she said, consulting a holographic star chart. My people's archives indicate it was one of the most heavily defended sites in the original empire. Defended against what? Jin'e asked. Morden's large dark eyes grew troubled. Records are incomplete, but our ancestors spoke of a threat from outside normal space. Something that consumed entire star systems and left nothing but emptiness behind. Taiman looked up from the research station where he had been working with Hijin to decode more symbols from the throne. The dragon mentioned ancient enemies, something that forced humans to seal their own memories. The void convergence, Morden said quietly. Even speaking the name was considered dangerous in the old times. Our oldest texts say they were beings from a reality where matter itself was different. They fed on existence, turning entire worlds into empty space. Dr. Wujin frowned at his readings. If such entities existed, what stopped them? According to legend, The Vetheran Empire built something called a reality anchor, a device that could seal the barriers between dimensions permanently, but it required massive amounts of energy and genetic keys from multiple bloodlines to activate. Jin'ei felt a chill run down her spine. The vaults contain pieces of this device? We believe so, but the pieces are useless individually. They must be combined in a specific sequence, and only heirs of the various imperial bloodlines can handle them safely. Captain Boram was studying tactical displays of the nearby systems. The problem is, we're not the only ones who know about these vault locations. I'm reading massive fleet movements from at least 12 different species. As if to prove her point, the communications officer called out from his station. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from Sub-Commander Kresh of the Korthak Secondary Fleet. The main screen showed a reptilian face similar to War Commander Sethron, but with more scars and calmer eyes. When he spoke, his voice carried less arrogance than his superior. Human vessels, I request permission to speak with the heir who activated the throne. Boram looked at Jin'ei, who nodded reluctantly. This is Dr. Jin'ei. What do you want? Dr. Jin'ei, I am Kresh of the 3rd Talon Battalion. I witnessed what your guardians did to our fleet. My commander refuses to accept that his weapons are useless against them. Your point? Sethran plans to use our secondary fleet to capture you directly. He believes that controlling the air will give him control over the Guardians and their ancient technologies. Jin'ei exchanged glances with Boram. Why are you telling us this? Because I have studied your species during our border conflicts. Humans are unpredictable in ways that other races are not. You adapt quickly and find solutions that should not work according to military theory. If these ancient enemies truly are returning, we will need human tactical thinking to survive. The screen went dark, leaving the bridge in thoughtful silence. A Korthak asking for human help. Jae-sung muttered. I never thought I'd see that. The galaxy is changing quickly, Princess Mordun observed. Old certainties are crumbling. Species that have been enemies for centuries may need to become allies. Boram made a decision. We're going after the first vault. Dr. Wu Jin, what do we know about the Kepler system? It's a binary star system with unusual gravitational anomalies. The vault appears to be located near the corona of the larger star, protected by some kind of energy field that's kept it intact for millions of years. A vault in a star's corona, Tae-min said wonderingly. The engineering required for something like that. It gets more interesting, Hye-jin added, looking up from her translation work. I've been decoding more of the throne's memory banks. The vaults aren't just storage facilities, they're tests. Tests of what? Worthiness. The original empire didn't want their most dangerous technologies falling into the wrong hands. Each vault requires not just the genetic keys, but proof that the potential inheritor understands cooperation, sacrifice, and wisdom. Jin'ei sat down heavily in a nearby chair. So even if I can open these vaults, they might not give me what's inside. Worse than that, Princess Mordun said. Some of the vaults are designed to destroy their contents if opened incorrectly. The Vetheran Empire preferred that their technologies be lost forever rather than misused. Captain Boram was already giving orders to her crew. Navigation, set course for the Kepler system, maximum sustainable speed. Communications, send a message to Earth Command explaining our situation and requesting any available reinforcements. Captain, Dr. Wu Jin interrupted. I'm detecting new energy signatures throughout the ship. The dragons are doing something. Through the observation windows, they could see streams of light flowing from the nearest energy dragon into the Incheon's hull. Similar streams connected to the other Earth ships and the Sivani vessels. They're upgrading our systems, Wu Jin reported in amazement. Engine efficiency up 30%. Shield generators operating at twice normal capacity. Weapon systems. I'm not even sure what they're doing to our weapons, but the power levels are incredible. The Guardians are preparing us for what comes next, Princess Mordun said. They know the challenges we'll face in the vaults. Jin'ei stood up and walked to the command center. Captain, I need to request something. When we reach the first vault, I want to lead the expedition personally. Doctor, you're not trained for combat operations. If these vaults are as dangerous as Princess Morden suggests, I'm the one who awakened the throne. I'm the one the Guardians recognize, and I'm the one who has to live with the consequences of whatever we find. Janae's voice grew stronger as she spoke. I've spent my whole life digging up the past. Now, I need to dig up our future. Boram studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Very well, but you'll have a full security team, and at the first sign of serious danger, you follow their orders without question. Agreed. The ship's intercom crackled to life. All hands, this is the captain. We are departing for the Kepler system to investigate an ancient Vitharan vault. This mission will likely determine the future of human civilization and possibly the galaxy itself. I know this is not what any of us signed up for when we joined the Defense Forces, but I have complete confidence in this crew's ability to handle whatever we encounter. As the Inchon and its escort ships jumped to hyperspace, Ginny watched Vethra disappear behind them. The planet where she had been a simple archaeologist just days ago now seemed like a memory from someone else's life. No pressure, Taman said quietly, joining her at the observation window. The dragon said I have to choose who to trust, Ginny replied. I'm starting to think the real test isn't about opening vaults. It's about building the alliances we'll need for whatever comes after. Behind them, Princess Mordoon was working, with Hijin to decode more of the ancient texts. Dr. Wujin continued analyzing the ship's upgraded systems, and somewhere in space, Sub-Commander Kresh was probably trying to convince his superiors that cooperation was better than conquest. The first vault waited in the heart of a star, protected by technologies beyond current understanding. But Jean A. was beginning to realize that the real challenge would not be unlocking ancient secrets. It would be proving that the current galaxy was worthy of inheriting them. The Kepler system blazed with the light of twin stars, their gravitational dance creating waves of energy that rippled through space like visible music. The vault hung suspended in the corona of the larger star, a structure of impossible crystalline beauty that should have been vaporized instantly by the stellar radiation. Jin'ei stood in the modified shuttle that would carry her team to the vault, watching through reinforced viewports as they approached their destination. The shuttle itself had been transformed by dragon technology, its hull now gleaming with patterns of light that pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. Thermal readings are impossible, Dr. Wu Jin reported from the pilot's seat. The vault's interior temperature should be millions of degrees, but our sensors show it's actually cooler inside than the shuttle. Princess Morden checked her equipment one final time. She had insisted on joining the vault team personally, claiming that her people's ancient knowledge would be essential. The texts speak of reality manipulation on a fundamental level. The Vitharans could alter the basic laws of physics within small areas. Sub-Commander Kresh occupied the back of the shuttle, his reptilian form seeming oddly out of place among the humans and Sivani. True to his word, he had convinced a small portion of the Korthak fleet to join their mission after War Commander Sethran had been relieved of duty for losing his entire primary fleet. Korthak military doctrine does not prepare us for enemies that ignore our weapons, he had told Captain Boram. Perhaps it is time we learned new approaches. The shuttle approached the vault's docking port, a structure that extended from the main building like a flower opening to greet them. As they connected, Jin'ei felt the familiar sensation of ancient technology recognizing her presence. Life support is stable inside, Wu Jin announced. Atmosphere is breathable for all our species. They entered the vault through an airlock that sealed behind them with a sound like distant thunder. The interior was vast beyond reason, its chambers stretching away in directions that hurt to contemplate. Floating platforms of crystal and metal drifted through the space, connected by bridges of solidified light. The architecture defies basic geometry, Princess Morden whispered in awe. This space is larger inside than outside. Hijin was already working on the symbols carved into the entrance walls. I can read some of this. It says something about trials of wisdom, courage, and sacrifice. As they moved deeper into the vault, Jin'ei began to understand why the Vitharan Empire had hidden such places. The technology here was not just advanced, it was transformative on a level that could reshape civilization or destroy it completely. The first chamber contained what appeared to be a map of the galaxy, but one that showed not just physical stars, but the connections between all living, minds across space. Threads of light linked every inhabited world, creating a web of consciousness that spanned the spiral arms. A map of telepathic networks, Kresh observed, his warrior training allowing him to analyze the display tactically. With this, one could influence the thoughts of entire populations, or help them communicate across species barriers, Ginny countered. The same technology, different applications. They moved through chambers filled with devices whose purposes they could only guess at, machines that seemed to manipulate time itself, allowing glimpses of possible futures, containers holding substances that existed in states of matter unknown to current science, archives containing the accumulated knowledge of 47 star systems. But as they progressed deeper, Janae began to notice something troubling. Princess Morden was changing. Her movements became more confident, more purposeful, as if she were remembering something long forgotten. Princess, Janae said carefully, how exactly did your people come to guard Vatharan refugees? Morden stopped walking and turned to face the group. Her expression had shifted from wonder to something harder to read. My ancestors were not just guardians, she said slowly. They were part of the original empire. Sci-Fi genetic patterns were incorporated into the imperial bloodline through marriage alliances and adoption protocols. That's not what you told us before, Kresh said, his hand moving instinctively toward his weapon. I told you what I believed to be true. But being here, surrounded by our ancestors' technology, the suppressed memories are returning. The chamber around them began to change, walls shifting to display images of the final days of the Vatharan Empire. They saw massive battles against entities that seemed to be made of living void, creatures that erased everything they touched from existence itself. The void convergence was winning, Morden continued, her voice now carrying harmonics that resonated strangely in the alien architecture. The reality anchor was our last desperate plan, but it required willing sacrifice from representatives of every major bloodline in the Empire. What kind of sacrifice? Janae asked, though she suspected she already knew. Life force, genetic essence, the accumulated experiences and knowledge of entire family lines, freely given to power the device that would seal the dimensional barriers forever. Dr. Wu Jin looked up from his scanner readings. Princess, I'm detecting massive energy buildups throughout the vault. Whatever's happening, it's accelerating. The vault is responding to the presence of multiple bloodlines, Morden explained. It's beginning to unlock the deepest archives. New chambers opened around them, revealing technologies that made everything they had seen before seem primitive. By comparison, Janae saw devices that could create or destroy matter at the quantum level, machines that could rewrite the fundamental constants of physics, and at the very center of it all, a component that pulsed with the rhythm of a living heart. Part of the reality anchor, she breathed. But as they approached the central component, the vault's defense systems activated. Barriers of energy surrounded the device, and symbols appeared in the air demanding genetic verification from multiple imperial bloodlines. I can provide the primary authentication, Janae said, stepping forward, and I can provide the Sivani component, Morden added. Kresh looked uncomfortable. My people have no connection to your ancient empire. Actually, Hijin said, consulting her translation tablets. According to these records, the Korthak were one of the allied species. Some of your ancestors served as military commanders in the Imperial fleet. Impossible. Korthak serve only Korthak. Times change, Janae said gently. People change. Maybe it's time for old enemies to become new allies. Kresh stared at the energy barriers for a long moment, then slowly approached the authentication panel. If this is true, if my ancestors fought beside yours against these void entities, then perhaps honor demands that I continue their service. He placed his clawed hand on the scanner, and the barriers began to weaken. But as the final seal opened and revealed the reality anchor component in all its terrible beauty, Princess Morden stepped back with a gasp. There's something else the records didn't mention, she said, her voice shaking. The original activation of the reality anchor didn't just seal away the void convergence, it damaged the barriers between dimensions permanently. What does that mean? Wu Jin asked. It means that every time we use ancient Veteran technology, we weaken those barriers a little more. The dragons, the upgraded ships, the vault defenses, all of it draws power from the same dimensional matrix that's keeping the void convergence sealed away. Jin'ei felt the blood drain from her face. You're saying that by awakening the throne, by activating these vaults, I'm actually helping our ancient enemies escape? The seals were designed to last millions of years, Mordun explained. But they were never meant to be disturbed. Each activation reduces the remaining time before the barriers fail completely. The reality anchor component pulsed brighter, as if responding to their conversation. Around them, the vault systems began shutting down automated systems and sealing secondary chambers. How long do we have? Kresh asked bluntly. Mordun consulted readings from the vault's central computer. Based on current decay rates and the number of sites that have already been activated, perhaps 6 months before the first breach points appear. Jin'ei stared at the component that could save or doom the galaxy, understanding finally why her ancestors had chosen to forget. The knowledge of how to fight the void convergence came with the risk of awakening them. But outside the vault, she knew that other species were racing toward the remaining sites. Whether from ambition, fear, or simple curiosity, the ancient technologies would be activated with or without her involvement. Then we'd better collect all the pieces quickly, she said, reaching for the reality anchor component. Because ready, or not, we're going to need them. As her hands closed around the device, Jin'ei felt the weight of 3 million years of history settling on her shoulders. Her ancestors had saved the galaxy once through sacrifice and wisdom. Now it was her turn to try. The galactic core blazed with light from 1 million ancient stars, their combined radiance illuminating the massive structure that humanity had built there 3 million years ago. The reality anchor stretched across several light minutes of space, its crystalline components connected by streams of energy that pulsed like the heartbeat of the universe itself. Jin'ei stood on the bridge of the EDF Incheon, watching as the final components were moved into position by dragon guardians and the combined fleets of 12 species. The past 6 months had been a desperate race across the galaxy, recovering pieces of the ancient device while fighting off attacks from species who wanted the technology for themselves. Final component alignment confirmed, Dr. Wu Jin reported, from his engineering station. All 7 reality anchor segments are in position and responding to the control matrix. Captain Boram moved to stand beside Jin'ei at the command center. The void convergence breach points are opening faster than we predicted. We have maybe hours before the first entities break through. On the tactical display, red markers showed dimensional weak points scattered across the galaxy where reality itself was beginning to thin. Ships from the Allied fleet had been evacuating populated worlds near the largest breach points, but there were too many civilians and not enough time. Status report from all Allied forces, Boram called out. The responses came from across the galaxy. Princess Mordun commanded a task force of Sivani vessels protecting the outer colonies. Sub-Commander Kresh led a mixed Korthak and human fleet guarding the core worlds. Even former enemies like the Althari and Zareth had joined the alliance when their own worlds came under threat from dimensional instability. All fleets report ready for reality anchor activation, Jae-sung announced. Jin'ei looked around the bridge at the faces of her friends and allies. Taemin was coordinating with archaeological teams on 12 worlds, helping evacuate ancient sites. Hyejin worked frantically at her translation station, decoding the final activation sequences from Vetheran records. The genetic authentication is ready, Hyejin reported. But Jin'ei, the power requirements are enormous. The anchor will need life force from representatives of every major bloodline in the original empire. How much life force? Not everything, Hyejin said carefully, but years from each participant, maybe decades. Jin'ei had known this moment would come. The Dragon Guardians had explained the price during their desperate journey to collect the anchor components. The device that could seal away the void convergence forever required willing sacrifice from those who carried the genetic legacy of the Empire. I'm ready, she said simply. As am I, came Princess Morden's voice over the communication channel. The Sivani Confederacy stands with humanity. The Korthak honor ancient alliances, Sub-Commander Kresh added. We will pay the price for our ancestors' choices. Similar commitments came from representatives of 7 other species, each carrying fragments of Vetheran genetic heritage in their bloodlines. Species that had been enemies for centuries were now offering to sacrifice years of their lives to protect the galaxy. Jin'e, Dr. Wu Jin said quietly, there might be another way. She turned to him with hope rising in her chest. I've been analyzing the power distribution systems. Instead of a few individuals giving large amounts of life force, the anchor could draw small amounts from millions of volunteers across all the allied species. Would that work? The genetic keys still need to come from the primary bloodlines, but the power source could be distributed. A few months of life from millions of people instead of decades from a few. Jeannie felt tears of relief gathering in her eyes. Contact all allied fleets. Ask for volunteers. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Within minutes, volunteer coordinators on hundreds of ships reported that entire crews were signing up to contribute to the reality anchor activation. Humans, Sivani, Korthak, even former enemies like reformed Althari colonies were volunteering to give part of their life force to power the ancient device. Ma'am, the communications officer called out, we're receiving a priority transmission from War Commander Sethran. Jin'e tensed. The former Korthak leader had escaped custody weeks ago and disappeared with a small fleet of loyal followers. Sethran's scarred face appeared on the main screen, but his expression was different from the last time they had spoken. Gone was the arrogant certainty, replaced by something that might have been fear. Human air, he said formally. My fleet stands ready to contribute to the reality anchor activation. Commander, you opposed this alliance from the beginning. I opposed human dominance. I did not oppose survival. His red eyes flickered to something off-screen. I have seen what approaches from the void spaces. No species can stand against such entities alone. Before Jin'e could respond, space itself began to tear open near the edge of the galaxy. Through the dimensional breach came something that hurt to look at directly. A thing that existed in too many dimensions for mortal minds to process. Where it touched normal matter, stars simply ceased to exist, leaving not even empty space behind. First, major breach confirmed, Jae-sung reported, his voice steady despite the impossible sight on the tactical display. Entity emergence detected. All allied fleets are falling back to minimum safe distance. Begin reality anchor activation sequence, Jin'e ordered. She moved to the genetic authentication station that had been installed at the center of the bridge. Around the galaxy, representatives of the other bloodlines took their positions at similar stations. The Dragon Guardians had synchronized the entire network, linking every volunteer across hundreds of worlds into a single massive circuit. Authentication. Confirmed from all primary bloodlines, Heijin announced. Power grid shows green across all sectors. Jin'e, you can begin the activation when ready. Jin'e placed her hands on the control interface and felt the immediate connection to millions of minds across the galaxy. Humans and aliens, former enemies and new allies, all united in their willingness to sacrifice for the greater good. For our ancestors who gave everything to protect us, she said, her words broadcast to every ship in the Alliance. For our children who deserve a future free from ancient terrors. For the galaxy that has become our shared home. She activated. The reality anchor. Power flowed through space in patterns that redefined the laws of physics. The massive device at the galactic core blazed with light that could be seen from neighboring galaxies. Reality itself began to heal, the dimensional barriers strengthening and sealing the void spaces away from normal existence. The void convergence entity that had emerged from the first breach found itself being pulled back into the nothing between realities. Its attempts to feed on local matter failed as the reality anchor's field rejected its very existence. Within moments, it was gone, and the dimensional tear sealed itself with crystalline formations that would hold for millions of years. Across the galaxy, Other breach points closed as the reality anchor's effect spread it faster.